to start the meeting for the Franklin Special School District. July board meeting will come to order. We'll ask Tasha, there she is. Tasha, if she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then after that we'll have a moment of silence.
Please stand. Thank you for coming to our Fssd board meeting tonight. So please stand and join me in the pledge. I'll pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain for a moment of silence. Thank you. Is there anyone for public input tonight? Anyone for public input? Seeing no one, we will declare that public input has been closed. We do not have good news awards and recognitions at this month's board meeting, so we will go into our reports and discussions, and we will start with Dr. Decker in Teaching and Learning.
Thank you, sir, so much. This evening, the Teaching and Learning Spotlight illuminates the 2021 Franklin Special Leadership Retreat, which was in many ways a breath of fresh and content-driven educational best practices air. The leadership team gathered at the Moore Elementary Teacher Center from June 16th through 18th for reflection, analysis, intense strategizing and planning, and of course, fellowship. Day one saw the entire leadership team participating in a half-day session around social, emotional, academic learning, known as SEAL, with Dr. Joelle Hood, a longtime partner of the Fssd. Through her thriving university work, Dr. Hood facilitates professional learning that is, to quote, not focused on something more to do, but is about a different way of being, pulling from research-based practices and strategies from areas of mindfulness, positive psychology, emotional intelligence, and social emotional psychology. The goal is to enhance purpose, belonging, and connection. Feedback from Lunch and Learns, as well as conversations with school and district administrators, indicated that ongoing SEAL support is needed, particularly in light of the pandemic and the most unusual 2020-21 school year. Dr. Hood equipped the team with various ideas, strategies, and tools that are already being implemented and align with the foundational pieces that we already have in place. Next, Selby Glass and Amy Fisher walked the team through a discussion about health and safety protocols for the coming months. And the first day of the retreat concluded with a session around daring leadership based on the writings of Brené Brown. With daring leadership, the aim is to support leaders in developing a practice of rumbling with vulnerability so they have the strength, confidence, and emotional stamina to learn to rise and to dare greatly. During the packed Day 2 agenda, we were led through a review and analysis of existing procedures around English learner EL strategies, the recommendations of the District EL Committee, and the current research on best practices. Teaching and Learning will continue to support schools as we sharpen our focus on the most effective approach for every student. Similarly, we consistently endeavor to refine our practices as to the role of our math and literacy coaches who are on the faculty at every school. We heard research in this area and facilitated small and whole group discussions that prepared us to continue to advance this work. We then had a comprehensive and compelling look at the Fssd's history around the implementation of high-quality materials, as well as thoughtful insights as to how we can leverage the considerable progress made in this regard. Research shows that the impact of high-quality materials on student achievement, as well as on equity, is significant. We next received guidance on the successful completion of school improvement plans, and we were fortunate to have Mr. Chuck Cagle join us for a detailed and helpful review of recent legal updates in education. Throughout the day, the team referenced and reflected on a recent article from Dr. Douglas Reeves titled, "What is Research Anyway?" Daring leaders, both those who have shared their insights and experiences with the Fssd previously, as well as new leadership voices, were seen and heard via video clips. Consistent across their observations were the ideas of leadership being a daily conscious choice and having the same high expectations for all students. As Kenneth Williams of Solution Tree states, above the heads of their students, teachers hold a crown. They challenge them to become tall enough to wear. The day 2 description would not be complete without a mention of the brief break that allowed all to recharge and tested our school administrators' educational spelling expertise. The final day of the retreat brought the full leadership team back together for the annual required drug-free workplace training, as well as a fascinating and illuminating conversation around innovation and a forward-thinking mindset in the Fssd. All in all, leadership retreat was an invaluable time during which we gathered purposefully and collaboratively to prepare for another year of bringing the best possible education to our students.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Questions? Yeah.
Thank you for that report. It's great. I just had a question, wondered if you could elaborate on the social, emotional, academic learning, since that's one of our strategic goals. Can you just give us a practical example of how that's being implemented with students? Like maybe one or two of the things that people gain from that, since I know that's a strong focus.
Absolutely. So let's see, a couple of the exercises that Dr. Joel Hood led us through were sort of getting to know you exercises that administrators can either put into practice with their faculty, or they can encourage their faculty to use in classrooms. Just ideas about how students can get to know each other, faculty members can get to know each other to foster that sense of belonging to start the year off. And then another piece that is connected to the work that we did around social emotional learning is the implementation of the Quaver SEL program, which we've talked about a little bit before, and we'll have it in all of our elementary schools this year. So there was discussion about how best to implement programs like that as well. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Not. Thank you, Dr. Decker. Dr. Esslinger?
Good evening, everyone. You do have in your packets the monthly construction report. I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have regarding that at this time. There's a lot of things going on as usual, but I've tried to give you a brief summary of and an update on each of the projects.
All right. Questions or comments for Dr. Esslinger? Thank you, sir. NSBA Equity Symposium. Ask Ms. Bell if she would speak to that.
I think there's a recurring theme going on. The Equity Symposium spent a lot of time talking about equity in mental health, and I thought it was very interesting that we have been for years very forward-thinking in our care for mental health amongst not just our children, but for our educators as well. And I think the part that was encouraging for me was the fact that we are already having conversation around our virtual students coming back in and acclimating with the students that were there all year long. We are already equipped to handle families that are coming in not just at risk, but also having invisible trauma from having lost a loved one or just, loss of just family belongings just because of how hard the pandemic hit the families. And they were having people reimagine having mental health counselors coming in, when they mentioned a therapy dog, I just really started smiling because I was like, we're on our third one, and people are, around the country are just having conversation about what does it look like to even possibly have one in our district, in their district. And the other things that I thought were encouraging was just for us to, and I've had just a little brief conversation with Dr. Snowden, but to consider what young people can, how we can get the young people to participate more in our board meetings and what would that look like, because places obviously were pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, but perhaps there's some way we can have them being a part of our district in some way, and Dr. Snowden shared that that's to be continued. And so overall, it was good. I loved learning from the National Association of School Resource Officers and their conversation around making sure we are aware that our SROs are a vital part to the educational team in their partnership. And I really liked what they were sharing and making sure, because of the our emphasis on being proactive and making the SRO handpicked. They're not just a typical school resource officer, a typical person that's just coming off the streets, but they're specific to knowing the nuances of being in the classroom and being with our young people. And the other benefit is that we do consider them a part of the team because of their help with suicide prevention or just mental health. It was just real encouraging to know that there were some things that we're already doing that I don't ever want us to take for granted, but I do want us to feel very confident that our constituents need to know that we're exercising these great best practices. So thank you. If you guys have any more questions, you can, we can have more conversation about it, but I really enjoyed the 2-day session. I just wish it would have been something that I could have given more feedback towards. It was a webinar, so.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bell. Health and illness guidelines for 21-22. We'll ask Dr. Snowden if he would lead that.
Yes, included in your packet are the proposed health and illness guidelines for the 21-22 school year. As you know, we recently completed our 4-week summer learning program where we had approximately 400 students attend at FES. That was 1st through 8th grade. We also had approximately 600 students who attended our Young Scholars program at FIS for a 2-week camp this summer. Our MAC and our WEMAC programs have also operated all summer with several hundred students participating. There were no cases, to our knowledge, related to COVID-19, and the use of masks were optional for all those programs. Based upon those positive experiences we have recently completed, we're proposing new health guidelines which are less restrictive as we begin the 21-22 school year. However, as stated in the proposal, the Fssd will continue to closely monitor any COVID-19 illnesses in our school and community and collaborate with the Williamson County Health Department and other community partners. If needed, we will be prepared to add protocols and restrictions to help protect the health and safety of both students and employees. These guidelines are being presented to the board, and you may decide you would like to take formal action tonight. Other than the continued use of social distancing when feasible, the guidelines would be in line with our usual procedures that are in place prior to COVID-19. The district COVID-19 team will be happy to answer any questions that you have related to both the health guidelines and the illness guidelines.
Question. I'm curious, as this summer, I know that masks were optional. Do you have an idea of what, was it 25, 75, like 50-50 people, students wore masks or didn't wear masks?
And Dr. Decker, you and I both were at the summer program a lot, and then I was at Young Scholars a couple of times. Summer program, I would say less than 5%. At Young Scholars, I would say maybe 20%.
Okay.
I don't know, does anybody have any better judgment on Young Scholars than that? There were more at Young Scholars wearing masks than at the summer program.
Okay. And how will we get this to parents? This will be going out in an email to them, or?
Yes, Blackboard Connect.
Yeah, okay. That's great.
I've got a question. And it's more just kind of help me process this, and I do better processing out loud. I apologize for that. But on the FSSD illness guidelines, under symptoms of infectious illness with no known exposure to COVID, you can attend school work activity if or when one of the conditions is a written documentation from a physician with return to school information. So, and it says and fever-free. So that written documentation, is this just the medical physician saying they may return to school? Or is it more detailed than that?
I'm going to yield. Nurse Fisher is out of town, but I know Selby was instrumental in. Selby, do you have a?
So, what that's referring to is really if what the illness is could potentially be a illness that would keep them out of school, like strep throat or something like that, because of the antibiotics, we would have to have something for them to return to school. But other than that, if they are fever-free for 24 hours and it's not, something that's tied to sore throat, tied to a fever, that would be something you might want to talk to them more about. A lot of what the illness guidelines, and we all agree we're going to talk as a COVID team, is going to be discussions ongoing with families and school nurses. Because what we don't want to do is be as strict as we were last year. We want to loosen that up because the data in the county supports that, the hospital capacity supports that. So when it comes to the illness guidelines, the goal was to loosen them up while also encouraging nurses to talk to families. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
That makes complete sense. Thank you.
And the conversations that the nurses had throughout the school year with family members was instrumental in us being able to stay open. A lot of times families didn't understand the illness guideline or they had questions, so when a family kept their child home, those conversations that the nurses had with them was really, and I know Nurse Fisher would agree if she was here, was a huge part of our mitigation strategy in keeping kids healthy and safe while they were in school. So that will continue to happen while loosening them. So that's what that stems from. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, sir. Item number 5, approval of the board agenda. Is there a motion?
Excuse me,
sorry.
1 second before we make a motion.
Okay.
We need to pull under the consent agenda the bids, food and culinary services. That low bidder pull their bid, so we will need some additional time to evaluate other bids.
Okay.
So that would be item number 4 under approval of consent agenda, should be removed from the agenda.
Okay. All right, so approval of the board agenda with that. Motion, Ms. Newman, second. Ms. Bale. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Approval of the consent agenda with noted that the item 4 was pulled. Motion,
Motion.
Ms. Barker, second. Mr. Townsend, discussion. All in favor, approve. Thank you. Business before the board, 2022 budget, Dr. Snowden.
Yes, enclosed in your packet were the final general purpose and debt service budget documents, including a summary and complete revenues and expenditures. During the work session, much was accomplished through great questions and discussion by our board members. We're extremely appreciative of your diligence during the 21-22 budgetary process. Also like to recognize the work done by Dr. Esslinger, the finance personnel, school and district administrators and supervisors during this process. During the budget process, as well as during our board meetings over the past 16 months, a significant amount of discussion was around the difficult challenges faced by the Fssd teachers, staff, and all Fssd employees during the pandemic. As was stated regularly during this past school year, our teachers, staff did phenomenal work ensuring that our students continued to receive appropriate, rigorous instruction while also continuing to address their social and emotional needs. Our school administrators were also remarkable in the creative way they addressed the shortage in the number of substitutes available almost every day so all classes would be adequately supervised so learning could continue. Additionally, all Fssd employees provide the needed support to students and families to make a successful year possible, whether a student was attending in person or virtually. During each budget year, we believe it's incumbent upon the district to continue to strive to increase the compensation package, salary, and benefits for our valued employees. As you may recall, the FY 2021 budget, for obvious reasons, did not include a cost of living increase for any Fssd employee. Employees did receive a very small bonus during the 2021 year, which was much appreciated by our employees. The proposed 21-22 budget provides the school district with the opportunity to not only verbally thank our employees for their remarkable work during last school year, but to provide a salary increase of 5% to demonstrate our vast appreciation. 3% would be a cost of living adjustment, and 2% would be the step increase for all employees, regardless of their current status on the salary scale. A step increase equates to an average of approximately 2% for Fssd employees. Also, at our last budget work session, Mr. Stillings brought up, and we usually discuss, the Consumer Price Index and the jump it has taken since the pandemic this year. The Consumer Price Index in this past June, on a seasonally adjusted basis, increased 0.9%. And during the last 12 months, the All Items Index increased 5.4%, which was the largest increase in the same amount for the period ending in August 2008. This increase has a significant impact on all consumers and obviously all of our employees being consumers. The total cost to fund the 21-22 increased compensation package for all Fssd employees is $2.3 million. Also, as you recall, during the budget process, we asked all principals to scrutinize their pupil-teacher ratios to determine positions that could be reduced due to the drop of enrollment related to the pandemic. There were 12 total positions reduced back in March and early April. We have seen enrollment numbers increase during the summer, and we have already had to add back one of those positions, and we anticipate the need to add back more in the coming weeks. The reduction of those positions equated to a reduction of approximately $1,036,992. Also, we are utilizing one-time federal dollars for 8 nursing positions, 2 social worker positions, and 1 safety and attendance position, which further reduces the 21-22 expenditures by $816,000. The amount of additional revenue, tax revenue, to fund the employees' increase of that $2.3 million and to partially offset the positions being funded by one-time federal dollars is 7.80 cents. It will take 6.2 cents of the increase to fund the increase for employees, which will leave 1.6 cents to partially offset those one-time funded employees. Additionally, it is our understanding, even though we have not had any official word, that the County Commission increased the tax rate for schools by 3 cents. If that is the case, by Dr. Esslinger's calculation, our share of that increase would be approximately $369,000. That additional amount could also help to offset those one-time federally funded employees. I know you as a school board take your fiscal responsibility extremely seriously, and our goal is always not to have to increase taxes to our constituents. The last time the Fssd increased taxes was in FY 2015-2016, and the total of that increase was 7.66 cents. As we discussed at the last budget work session, and to again provide some perspective of what this proposed increase would mean to homeowners, we've calculated the increase for a home or a house valued at $400,000 and one at $500,000. We understand that not all houses are at either of those values, but these calculations will provide some idea. A homeowner of a $400,000 house would see a $10 annual increase for each penny of increase to the property tax, and a homeowner of a $500,000 house would see a $12.50 annual increase for each penny of tax increase. Also, through the budget process, we presented and discussed budgets for federal capital projects, food and culinary services, and our MAC program. We recommend approval of all the budgets presented during this process.
Thank you, sir. Is there we'll have to do a roll call vote, but is there a motion to get this up for discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Bell? Second, Ms. Newman. Discussion?
I just want to say thank you, too, to the staff that spent a lot of time putting this together. And I appreciate your thorough explanation just right now. I guess I also want to add that one of the things that FSSD does that not everyone does is when the state proposes an increase for teachers, not all districts do that across the board for all their employees, but we do. And so that definitely makes our budget process a little bit different, where every employee is valuable and seen as someone who is worthy of the increases that we give. So I appreciate that we do that, and I think that's a distinction that not all areas do, and I think we should recognize that. And I also think we have gotten money recently through the federal programs because of COVID, and we will not always get that, and that's another consideration with this budget, with our nurses, our social workers. And we may not put all those 12 positions back this year, but we certainly probably will by the next school year. So I just appreciate all the work that's gone into it. It's been very thoughtful. It's very hard to talk about having to increase the money we collect, and we take it very seriously. We have not done it very often, maybe once since I've been on the board. And so I appreciate the explanations.
Agreed. Thank you.
I do also want to add, so we did discuss this at, during the previous meetings, during the budget meetings, and I do appreciate giving us those updated, the CPI and the other numbers. Also, as we're thinking about COVID and the new responsibilities that are placed on teachers, staff, nursing staff, I do value the fact that FSSD has a nurse in our schools, in each school, and the state does not cover that. The state would probably cover maybe 2 for a district.
I think it's a little over 1.
1, okay.
1 point.
And so I appreciate the fact that FSSD just has that resource already in place. However, I do not necessarily think things are going to be much easier on our teachers and staff this next school year. So I appreciate all we do, and I appreciate all we still are doing for our staff, teachers, and students.
Agreed. Thank you. Have a motion, second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Townsell?
Yes.
Mr. Blair, yes. Ms. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Okay, approved. Thank you, sir.
Okay, item number 2 is the FSSD tax rate of 21.22. Since the budgets have been approved, the tax rate will need to be set for both the general purpose and the debt service budgets. Since this was a reappraisal year, the certified tax rate, revenue neutral, for the FSSD would be 0.6271. As was noted in your budget documents, the assessed value for property within the Franklin Special School District increased by 36.6%. The tax rate to fund the proposed budget is 0.5311 cents for the general purpose and 0.1740 cents for the debt service, for a total of 0.7051 cents. We recommend approval of this tax rate.
Thank you, sir. This will set the tax rate to fund the budget, so we'll also do a roll call vote on that, but is there a motion to approve? Ms. Barker, is there a second? Mr. Townsell, discussion. If there's no discussion, let us do a roll call vote. Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blair, yes. Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Ms. Newman?
Happy to say yes.
All right. Approved. Thank you, sir.
Item number 3 is a policy deletion, COVID-19 sick leave 5.3023. This is the first reading, but we would like to have the board consider waiving of the second reading. During our 2021 board retreat, the board chose to adopt a policy to voluntarily extend the emergency paid sick leave benefit to employees until the end of the school year. As written in the policy, those benefits expired as of June 30th of this calendar year. The request is to delete that policy, and we recommend approval of the deletion of that policy.
Okay. Is there a motion to waive first and pass on second?
I'll make the motion to waive first and pass on second.
Ms. Bell, is there a second? Ms. Newman, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item number 4, new project planning 3.211 is the first reading. The State Board of Education revised its regulation on plans for new facilities. These plans are no longer required to be submitted to the Commissioner of Education for approval. Based on current building within our district, the administration is presenting this as a new policy for our district. TSBA has provided recommendations on language for this policy. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion to approve?
I motion to approve and waive second reading. It's fairly straightforward policy.
Is there a second? Second. Ms. Barker? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Item number 5 is a new policy, access to private facilities 3.220, first reading. Per TSBA, Public Chapter 452 allows students and employees to request reasonable accommodations if greater privacy is desired in a multi-occupancy restroom, changing facilities, or sleeping quarters when attending a school-sponsored activity. This new law also makes it possible for students and employees to pursue legal action against a school district if, 1, they enter a bathroom or changing facility, 2, they encounter a member of the opposite sex, and 3, the school district intentionally allowed the member of the opposite sex to enter the facility while others were present. While this policy is not required by law, having a policy in place on this topic is one way that the district can attempt to address this matter proactively. TSBA has created a model policy that aligns with this new law. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve and waiving first reading and passing on second.
There's a motion.
Waiving second and passing on first.
There you go. Is there a second? I'll second that. Ms. Newman, is there a discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 6 is a new policy, Instructional Standards 4.1011. This is also a first reading. Per TSBA Policy Department recommendations, several recent changes to state law impact the materials and content that can be included in classroom instruction. TSBA has created the new model policy to align with those updated state laws. Adopting this policy, again, is not required by state law. However, doing so would allow the board to show compliance with these new standards. The administration recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Newman, is there a second? Second. Mr. Townsend, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Item number 7, new policy, Summer Instructional Programs 4.2041. This is also a first reading. During the past legislative session, laws were also passed that impact summer programming. TSBA has provided a model policy to be adopted to include the additional summer programs that will be offered to students in addition to the traditional summer school. Certain factors, as outlined in this new state law, determine student eligibility for these programs. Boards have the discretion when determining whether to require the attendance of priority students in summer instructional programs. If the board chooses to require the attendance of priority students, this information must be included in policy. We recommend approval of the summer instructional programs.
All right, their motion. Ms. Newman, is there a second?
I have a question. From our policy, we have a type of requirement for our priority students. Students shall not be required to attend our policies.
That was the same way this focus was on priority students.
Right, but we're not
and
making it a,
it's
you
not
could make it,
mandated.
right.
Now,
And
there will continue, I'm sorry, there
No,
will
go
be
ahead.
continued for promotion, like going from 8th grade or middle school, there still be some requirement, could be some requirement for people to move to the next grade. But
Right. The other question I had was the two of the camps, or one of the camps I thought we had was funded by the federal government and was required, but this says funding for all programming shall be provided for in the annual budget. So is that, the one thing we had this year, is that included in this policy?
Yes, the summer programming that was passed by the special extraordinary legislative session included funding for 2 years. And in that program, no student is required to attend, but the focus is on priority students who need that service. So, and after that, we don't know if the funding will continue, but funding was built into that act for 2 years.
Are those the two programs, number 3 and number 4 in the policy, that we have the years by? It says after-school learning mini camps, 21, 20.
Yes.
And so would those be removed from this policy when we're done with them?
Well, I think
we'll
it's
wait
too
and
early to say,
Okay.
to definitely say that, because that may be something that has been proven to be so effective that we need to look at funding that.
Okay. We can decide that
Yeah.
then. Okay. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sorry.
No problem. Any other discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is a new policy, enrollment in advanced courses 4.205. This is also a first reading. Boards are now required to adopt a policy detailing how students can enroll in advanced courses. This policy must list objective enrollment criteria, including TCAP scores and grades. TSBA has updated their policy 4.205 up for our adoption to align with this change in state law. TSB also recommends that boards include the criteria of those courses offered by the district. We recommend approval.
A motion to approve. Ms. Barker, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bell, is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Okay, signify by saying aye. All right, thank you.
Item number 9, policy revision, emergency closing, 1.8011. First reading, Public Chapter 384 prevents local governmental entities from designating certain employees as essential. At the beginning of the pandemic, our policy was updated to align with the need to allow some employees to be physically present in the building while others work from home, resulting in some employees being designated as essential. Based on this new law, however, the language required by law regarding essential employees have been removed. We recommend approval of the revisions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Robert, I'd like to make a motion to approve
Ms. Bell?
and waive second reading.
All right, is there a second? Second. Mr. Townsell?
I had a question. So basically, it's the same policy, but we're removing calling the employees who stay at school essential.
Correct.
Okay. We can still have employees stay at
Yes,
school. They're just
yes.
not considered. All of our employees are essential. In other
Exactly.
words,
Right.
yes, which we would agree.
Any other discussion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you.
Item number 10, policy revision, interscholastic athletics, 4.301. This is also a first reading. Guidance has been provided by the Tennessee School Board Association for this language. As outlined by TSBA, 2 new laws change the requirement for student athletes. Number 1, Public Chapter 40 requires boards to adopt a policy that ensures student-athlete compliance with new standards for participation in sports. The new requirement only permits members of one biological sex to compete on sex-segregated athletic teams. Number 2, additionally, Public Chapter 272 includes new requirements for coaches and the safety of student athletes. In particular, coaches must now adhere to locally developed codes of conduct and undergo trainings on severe weather and other safety protocols. TSBA Policy Department has also provided language in this model policy to align with these new legal requirements. We recommend approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve and waive second reading.
Okay. Is there a second? Ms. Newman is the second. Is there discussion?
I'm sorry, I have so many questions
There
tonight.
you go.
On the severe weather part of this is our policy. Do we have, having a child who has played sports and wondering like, oh, should we call the game? Should we, or do we set procedures or like steps that we take to determine when a coach calls a game or a trainer
Yeah,
as far as weather goes?
yes, the coach
Okay.
doesn't have that authority. It's the athletic directors.
Okay, and they have a kind of a rubric that they use. Okay.
They also receive training. Nurse Fisher goes and then some training, and we have lots of discussion around weather related. That goes for practices in the heat as well. When we start football practice soon, we have to keep an eye on those student athletes or any athletes, but especially those that are outside participating in this summer heat, and take precautions.
And Dr. Snow, you may have already just answered my question a little bit. My question was regarding that training. So right now, we kind of already provide some of it?
We already have that,
Okay.
have some training, but we're going to take a look and see if we need to add more in-depth training to those areas.
Okay, and do we think Nurse Fisher will be doing that as well?
She will be instrumental in the design of that, since
I'll
she
send her
is
a
our
thank you
health
card.
expert. What's that?
I'll send her a thank you
Oh, I
card.
know.
Did you want to participate?
No.
Oh,
that's
okay.
It sounds like things keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
That's job security.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you.
Ms. Glass, well, that's more job security, Ms. Glass.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
We have a weather reporter.
Item number 11, policy revision, application and employment, 5.106. This is also a first reading. Recently passed Public Chapter 211 allows the director of schools to hire individuals with a teaching permit if a teacher with a valid license is not available. TSBA has provided language in their model policy to clarify this as an option. We recommend approval.
A motion to approve? Make a motion. Mr. Townsend, is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Barker, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Dr. Snow?
Item number 12, policy revision, qualifications and duties of the director of schools, 5.802, also a first reading. As part of Public Chapter 211, which allows the director to hire individuals with a teaching permit if a teacher with a valid license is not available. Policy 5.802 is impacted, as the director of schools would be required to report potential misconduct by these individuals to the State Board of Education in the same manner that is done by licensed teacher. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion? Mr. Townsend, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bell, is there a discussion? Ms. Newman?
This is so not typical for me, but how does someone get a temporary permit? What is that exactly? Just in a quick synopsis.
I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Duke.
Just curious. I didn't know there was such a thing, so I was like, oh, a temporary permit.
If we don't have an applicant, or our best candidate is someone who does not have an active teaching
that's how they get the permit.
Issued by the state. They have a 1-year time period, and then they have to meet some more criteria to continue.
Okay, thankful.
Typically speaking, we usually do it for a short-term fix.
Yeah.
They have a praxis that's outstanding for some time, so it's usually never a year.
That's helpful, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Your questions are helpful.
Any other discussion among the board? Townsend?
No.
Oh, you're good, okay.
We need to vote.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Thank you. Dr. Snowden, Director of Schools report.
Yes, before I begin the Director of Schools report, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our newest member of our leadership team is Shelley Robinson, is our new instructional tech. So, Shelley, welcome. She's been oriented quite sufficiently, I think, over the last 6 days, I guess. So, she's going to be a great asset, a great addition to our team. Summer Learning Camp and Learning Loss Bridge Camp recap. We just talked about that a little. Approximately 400 students completed that camp. The feedback we got from parents, students, and staff was very positive. Our summer camp administrators, Dr. Collins and Dr. Wallace, will provide the board with an update at the August board meeting. As with any new program, there will be modifications as we plan for the summer camp in 2022. Opening day on August the 2nd, we will have our official opening of schools program. Personnel will begin the day in their own schools, and beginning at 7 a.m., our partnership fair sponsors will be divided. Some will be located at each school. At 8 a.m., all employees will attend the opening virtually, and then the remainder of the day will be utilized for professional learning sessions. Now, the reason that we're doing it virtually, if you've been driven by Poplar Grove lately, that construction with the PAC and the gym, there's just no parking, and that's one of our largest facilities. So it would be almost impossible to get people in and out in a timely manner, and to have that program at Poplar Grove for this coming school year. Hopefully, if everything goes well with the construction process next year, we can have our opening of school in the PAC, which is certainly exciting. We will be live streaming the opening from the Teacher Center beginning at 8, and you're welcome to be a part if your schedule permits. Our keynote speaker, Dr. John Hodge, will begin his remarks around 8:30. Dr. Hodge is president and co-founder of Urban Learning and Leadership Center, an organization focused on student achievement and reduction of the achievement gap. We hope your schedule will allow you to join us that morning to participate and also be recognized.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, if we cannot be there, is that going to be recorded where we could watch it?
I'm sure we can do that.
Since
right?
it's going to be
Well, I don't know
virtual, would
about
that be
Dr.
easier?
Hodges because of copyright. Yeah, we can request, but sometimes speakers or presenters won't allow you to do that. But if we can, we will.
Thanks.
And would you like for us to be at the Learning Center?
At the Teacher Center would
Yeah, I
be
mean, at the
great
Teacher
if you
Center,
could,
yes.
if you can attend and be
Okay.
at the Teacher Center.
Okay, thank you.
We can put you on camera there. Equip training, the new teacher induction program will be conducted July the 27th through the 29th. The first 2 days will have the entire group, with the last day focusing on teachers of students with disabilities only. We look forward to working with our new teachers and administrators as the new school year begins. Currently, we have 14 new teachers that will be joining us this year. That's probably the lowest number that I can recall in many years, which is a good thing. Even though we didn't mention it earlier during policy discussions, we used to have an extremely deep pool of applicants for almost every teaching position. That has changed, especially in our higher math and students in special education, foreign language, or some other areas. So that is getting to be more and more of a challenge, even for school districts that are well, I guess all school districts are high quality, but we just believe that we are at
We're
the top
special.
of that. But and that's why I think it's important to continue to provide the salary and benefit package, the compensation package that we have, so that we can attract. Because realistically, some of these principals, I know they're nodding their head, is they're having a difficult time finding some people in some positions. So it's good that we only have to have 14 at this point. Transition of programs personnel related to Eddie Lane property and movement of programs personnel from the central office annex. As of this time, Chip, as well as the transportation department, Bo and Dylan and Shane, are at their Eddie Lane offices. We also have moved, I guess, Bo, have we moved all the buses now?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Close.
How's that going?
It's going. It's going.
The WEMAC program was moved this past weekend, I guess Sunday. The moving trucks moved about 12 hours worth of work, and they started to unpack this morning. And WEMAC is closed for this week, but we're scheduled to be open, back open next week at their new site at Freedom Middle School. So we'll keep you up to date as those plans are further developed. We were excited also to find out at the end of last week about the continued expansion of our partnership with Mercy Community Healthcare to provide therapists for students who need this service. We will now have 5 full-time and 1 part-time therapists for this coming school year. 5 of the schools will have service opportunities for 5 days a week. At this point, 1 will have 2 days a week, and 2 of the schools will have 1 day a week. And we are certainly looking forward to continue to expand this valuable program as we go forward. And conference and meeting updates, Carol has provided updates on those conferences. Thanks for letting her know of your interest in registration for any of those. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for Dr. Snowden? All right. Updates, teaching and learning?
No, sir, thank you.
All right. Finance administration?
Yes, you have your monthly HR packets and financial reports in your packet. Sales tax collections for the month collected so far in July reflect a 39.3% increase over the same collections last period. Fiscal year 2021 sales tax collections have surpassed the projected budgeted revenues for the fiscal year by 7.5%.
Thank you. I'd like to mention, Ms. Bell mentioned this earlier, and I waited until now to tell you, not only do we have 3 therapy dogs, but hopefully by the end of a couple more weeks, we will have a therapy dog in each school.
Wow.
So that's, and I know you've watched Maddie go around here. Maddie provides a lot of therapy, not just for students, but for adults as well. So we're excited about the growth, the expansion of our therapy dog program. Maddie has done a great job here, and we know that our other canine friends will do the same at other schools.
Dr. Snowden, I would love for us to do what Dyersburg did for us at some point, where we're able to love on another school district proactively and allow us to give them our best practices so that they can, I think they did it free of charge for us.
Yes, they do.
So that we can, in return, help some other school districts.
Absolutely, we're willing to share.
Thank you, sir. Any announcements from board members? Let me say thank you, Dr. Snowden, and everyone. You do a great job. You're the reason we are special, and we certainly appreciate all that you do and look forward to a great upcoming year. So with that, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you, sir.